the empty seats. This is a true story. October 13th, 2023. I boarded a bus full of sleeping passengers in Tulancingo, Mexico. 3 hours later, when the lights came on, I was the only person on that bus, and I still don't know where they went. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 28 years old, a graphic designer who works freelance from my apartment in Austin, Texas. I tell you this because what happened to me could happen to anyone. I'm not special. I don't have psychic abilities. I don't believe in ghosts. Or at least I didn't. Not until that night. The call came at 7 in the morning, my mother's voice shaking. "Mija, I fell. I need you to come home. Please." Home. Poza Rica, Mexico. The place I'd left 6 years ago to chase the American dream. The dream that had recently turned into a nightmare when I lost my biggest client 2 weeks prior. My bank account was bleeding. I couldn't afford a plane ticket. I could barely afford groceries. But when your mother calls, you go. The cheapest option was a bus. Not the luxury coaches with Wi-Fi and reclining seats, but the basic inner-city service. $42 from the border to Poza Rica with a transfer in Tulancingo. I'd arrived by dawn, broke but present. That's what daughters do. My sisters Elena and Carmen drove me to the Tulancingo terminal. They were heading back to Mexico City and offered to take me all the way to Poza Rica, but I refused. They had work in the morning. Besides, it was only a 3-hour bus ride. What could possibly go wrong? Everything, as it turned out. They dropped me off at 11:47 p.m. The terminal was a concrete shell of faded yellow paint and flickering neon signs. Most of the shops had pulled down their metal shutters. A security guard slept in his booth, chin on chest breath, whistling through his nose. A woman at the sandwich counter was packing up for the night, wiping down surfaces with aggressive swipes of a gray rag. I stood under a buzzing neon sign that read, Tulancingo Terminal, Ultima Salida, 11:50 p.m. Last departure. I'd made it with 3 minutes to spare. The parking lot stretched out before me, mostly empty. Fog was rolling in from somewhere thick and low-cutting visibility to maybe 30 feet. Beyond that, nothing but darkness, the kind of darkness that makes you feel small, alone, vulnerable. I pulled my jacket tighter. October in the mountains is cold, but this was a different kind of cold. It wasn't the temperature, it was the silence. No cars on the road, no voices, just the hum of electricity and the distant sound of wind pushing through dried leaves. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Did you board yet, Mia?" I looked at the signal bars. 1 bar. Flickering. Then none. I tried to reply. The message failed to send. I tried again. Failed. My phone was essentially a very expensive flashlight now. Battery 34%. I'd forgotten my charger. Of course I had. I sat down on a concrete bench, cold seeping through my jeans. The bench had a crack running through it, weeds growing from the fissure. Someone had carved "No Vuelvas" into the armrest. Don't come back. A strange thing to write at a bus terminal. That's when the light went out. The neon sign above me sputtered once, twice, then died completely. For 2 seconds I was plunged into absolute darkness. My heart kicked against my ribs. Then the light flickered back on, buzzing louder than before, angry somehow. Probably just a power surge. I muttered to myself, old terminal, old wiring. But my hands were shaking. I stood up, scanning the area. The security guard was still asleep. The sandwich lady had disappeared into the back room. I was alone on the platform, and the fog was getting thicker. I could barely see the parking lot entrance now. Then I felt it. The prickling at the back of my neck. The ancient human instinct that tells you you're being watched. I turned quickly, looking behind me. Nothing. Just fog and darkness and the skeletal frame of a closed bathroom stall. I turned back around. The feeling didn't go away. Headlights pierced the fog. Yellow beams diffused and ghostly. The growl of a diesel engine. Finally, the bus. But as it pulled into view, something felt wrong. The bus was full. Through the windows, I could see the silhouettes of passengers. Heads down, bodies still. At least 20, maybe 30 people already on board. But this was the last stop before Poza Rica. This bus was supposed to originate here in Tulancingo. Where'd all these passengers come from? I checked my ticket again, squinting in the poor light. Departs Tulancingo 11:50 p.m. Origin Tulancingo. Maybe they'd come from a different part of town. Maybe there was another terminal I didn't know about. Maybe it was a connecting route. That made sense. That had to make sense. The bus hissed to a stop in front of me, air brakes sighing. The door folded open. The driver was a middle-aged man with a thick mustache and a green company polo shirt. He didn't look at me, didn't greet me, just jerked his head toward the interior of the bus, a silent instruction to board. "Buenas noches," I said. He didn't respond. I hesitated at the bottom step, one foot on the pavement, one foot reaching for the first stair. The stairs were higher than I expected. I had to grab the handrail and pull myself up my backpack, swinging awkwardly. The interior of the bus hit me like a wave. The lighting was dim, a sickly yellow that came from LED strips running along the ceiling, the kind of light that makes everyone look jaundiced and dead. The smell was overwhelming. Diesel fuel, yes, but also something else. Something damp and organic, like clothes that had been left wet for too long. And underneath that, a faint, metallic scent I couldn't place. The passengers were exactly as I'd seen through the windows. All asleep, every single one. I walked slowly down the aisle, my sneakers silent on the rubber matting. I studied the passengers as I passed. Row 1. A man in a black suit, leather briefcase balanced on his lap. His head was tilted back, mouth slightly open. In the dim light, I couldn't tell if his chest was moving. Row 3. 2 young women, maybe college age. One had earbuds in her ears, but I couldn't see a phone. The other had her hair covering her face, a dark curtain. Row 5. An elderly couple. The woman was leaning against the man's shoulder. His hand rested on her knee. They looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Row 7 through 10, more people, workers in dusty clothes, a woman in a business suit, a teenager with a backpack, all sleeping, all perfectly still. I counted quickly, at least 25 passengers, maybe 30. The bus was nearly full, and none of them moved as I walked past. Not even a twitch, not even when the bus hit a pothole and lurched to one side. My ticket said, Seat 42B. Near the back, I made my way down the aisle, my skin crawling with each step. When I reached row 42, I stopped. Seat 42A, the window seat, was occupied. A boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old, dark hair neatly trimmed. He wore a navy blue jacket with a zipper jeans and small white sneakers. He was clutching a backpack in his lap, arms wrapped around it tightly. His eyes were fixed on the window, staring out into the darkness beyond. I looked across the aisle. Seat 41A held a woman, maybe mid-30s, hair pulled back in a neat bun, a beige scarf around her neck. She was asleep, hands folded on the armrest fingers, almost reaching towards seat 42. His mother, I assumed. He'd chosen the window seat to be near her. "Hi," I whispered, not wanting to wake the other passengers. "I'm Sarah. I guess we're neighbors." The boy didn't respond. Didn't even glance at me, just kept staring out the window. I slid into seat 42B, the middle seat. I put my backpack in the overhead compartment, then settled in. The seat was hard, covered in worn faux leather that stuck to my jeans. The armrest was loose, wobbling when I touched it. The bus lurched forward without warning. No announcement, no "please remain seated" or "next stop Poza Rica." Just movement. I glanced at my phone. 11:55 p.m. We were 5 minutes late. No signal. Battery at 28%. I put the phone away and looked at the boy beside me. He still hadn't moved. His profile was sharp against the window, illuminated by the occasional streetlight we passed. "What are you looking at?" I asked softly. No answer. I followed his gaze. Outside there was nothing. Just darkness and the occasional blur of a tree trunk. The fog had gotten thicker. I couldn't see more than a few feet beyond the glass. What was he staring at so intently? I settled back in my seat, trying to get comfortable. The bus smelled worse back here. That damp, organic smell was stronger, and the metallic scent, like pennies, like old blood, Stop it, I told myself. You're tired, you're stressed, you're imagining things. I closed my eyes, trying to will myself to sleep. I've always had trouble sleeping on buses, on planes, in any moving vehicle. My body refuses to relax when it knows it's in motion. But I was exhausted. Maybe tonight would be different. The bus rocked gently as we turned onto the highway. The engine settled into a steady rumble. Someone had left the overhead air conditioning on, and cold air streamed down on me. I pulled my jacket tighter. That's when I felt it. Something touched my hand. I opened my eyes and looked down. The boy's hand was reaching toward mine. Small fingers pale in the dim light. They brushed against my knuckles, then grasped my hand. His hand was cold, not just cold, freezing, like he'd been holding ice, like he'd been outside in winter without gloves. Like a piece of meat pulled from a freezer. I jerked slightly but didn't pull away. Poor kid, the AC was blasting. He must be freezing. "You're really cold," I whispered. "Let me warm you up." I wrapped both my hands around his small hand, rubbing gently, trying to generate some heat. I breathed on his fingers. I pressed his hand between my palms, but his hand stayed cold, impossibly cold. After 5 minutes, there was no change. His hand felt like stone pulled from a river in February. I glanced at his mother across the aisle. She was still sleeping. I considered waking her, telling her the boy was too cold, but something stopped me. A weird reluctance I couldn't explain. The bus drove on. Out the window, I saw nothing but darkness. No lights from houses, no other cars. Just an endless black void, punctuated occasionally by the white line down the center of the road. I checked my phone. 12:17 a.m. We'd been driving for 22 minutes. Still no signal. Battery at 25%. I looked at the other passengers. In the rows ahead, everyone remained motionless. I couldn't hear anyone snoring. Couldn't hear anyone shifting in their seats. Just the engine and the tires on asphalt and the rattle of loose metal somewhere in the chassis. The boy's grip tightened on my hand. I looked at him. He was still staring out the window. His eyes were wide, unblinking. How long had it been since he'd blinked? Had I seen him blink at all? "Are you okay?" I asked. He didn't answer. Didn't even acknowledge that I'd spoken. I studied his profile more carefully. In the flickering light from outside, I could see his face clearly. His skin was pale, very pale. Not just hasn't seen much sun pale, but bloodless. And his lips had a faint blue tinge. He needs a warmer jacket, I thought. He's probably sick. But then I noticed something else. His chest. It wasn't moving. Not up, not down. Just completely still. He's not breathing. The thought came unbidden, and I immediately tried to dismiss it. Of course he's breathing. He's just breathing very shallowly. The light is bad. I can't see clearly. I forced myself to look away to focus on something else. Anything else. I looked at the woman across the aisle. His mother. She was still in the same position. Head tilted slightly, hands on the armrest. Her chest wasn't moving either. "No, stop it, you're being paranoid." I looked at the man in the black suit at the front of the bus. From this angle, I could see the side of his body, his chest, perfectly still, the two college girls still as statues, the elderly couple not moving. No one was moving, no one was breathing, except me. My heart started to pound. I could feel it in my throat, in my ears. The bus suddenly felt smaller, the air thicker. I wanted to stand up, to move, to do something, but the boy's hand was clamped around mine, and I didn't want to disturb him. The bus hit a pothole, hard. I was jolted forward, barely catching myself on the seat in front of me, but no one else moved. Not a single passenger swayed or jerked or adjusted their position. They stayed exactly as they were, as if bolted to their seats. That's not natural. That's not possible. I swallowed hard. My mouth was dry. My hands were shaking. "Excuse me?" I called out, my voice louder than I intended. "Excuse me, is everyone okay?" No response, not from anyone. I tried again, louder. "Hello, is anyone awake?" Silence. Just the engine and the tires and my own ragged breathing. I looked at the woman across the aisle again. I needed to wake her. I needed to talk to someone to confirm that I wasn't losing my mind. I leaned forward, reaching across the aisle with my free hand. "Ma'am, excuse me, ma'am." She didn't stir. I reached further, my fingers inches from her shoulder. "Ma'am, your son is really cold. I think you should—" My fingers brushed the fabric of her scarf, and I stopped. Because I felt it, a wrongness, a deep primal warning that made every instinct in my body scream at me to pull back. I withdrew my hand slowly. I didn't touch her. I couldn't. The bus drove on through the darkness. I sat frozen in my seat, the boy's cold hand in mine, surrounded by 30 people who might as well have been mannequins. I checked my phone again. 1:13 a.m. We've been driving for over an hour. Battery at 19%. Still no signal. I looked out the window, desperate for something familiar. A landmark, a sign, anything. But the darkness outside was absolute. And then I saw something that made my blood freeze. In the reflection on the window glass, I could see the interior of the bus behind me. The seats, the passengers, but in the reflection where their faces should have been, there was nothing. Just dark voids, empty spaces. I blinked hard, looked again. Now the reflection showed faces, pale, sleeping faces. A trick of the light. Has to be. Just the angle and the dim lighting and my exhausted mind playing tricks. I forced myself to look away from the window, to focus on something concrete, the seat in front of me, the loose armrest, the dirty floor, and that's when I saw them. Footprints. On the floor of the bus, faintly visible in the dim light, were footprints. Wet footprints. Dark and smudged, leading from the front of the bus down the aisle, stopping at various rows. And one set of small footprints, child-sized, leading directly to seat 42A, where the boys sat. I bent down slowly, carefully, trying to see more clearly without letting go of the boy's hand. The footprints were still wet, still glistening. I could see the tread pattern from someone's shoe. And something else, something dark at the edges of each print. Not water. Red. Dark red. Blood. I pressed my free hand against my mouth, stifling a gasp. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. This isn't real. This can't be real. I forced myself to breathe slowly. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Stay calm. There has to be an explanation. Maybe someone got hurt before boarding. Maybe someone had a nosebleed. Maybe the prints are from hours ago and just haven't dried because of the humidity. But the prints looked fresh, still wet, still glistening under the yellow lights. I straightened up slowly, not wanting to look at the floor anymore. I kept my eyes forward, focusing on the back of the seat in front of me, but I couldn't help it. I had to check one more thing. I looked down at the boy's shoes, his white sneakers, clean, spotless, no mud, no dirt, no blood. So where did the footprints come from? Then I saw something else, under my seat, partially hidden in shadow, a handprint on the floor, dark and wet, small, child-sized, as if someone had been crawling, as if someone had been hiding under the seat and dragged themselves out. As if something was still under there. I couldn't breathe. My vision narrowed. The bus walls seemed to close in. Don't look under the seat. Don't look. If you look, you'll see it. And if you see it, it will see you. The boy's hand tightened around mine. His grip was no longer gentle. It was crushing, painful. His small fingers digging into my hand like claws. I looked at him. For the first time since I'd boarded, he turned his head, slowly, mechanically. He looked directly at me. His eyes were empty, completely empty. No pupils, no iris, just hollow black voids, and he smiled. "We're glad you're here," he said. His voice wasn't a child's voice. It was layered, multiple voices speaking at once. Men, women, children, all talking in unison, echoing from somewhere deep and hollow. I screamed. I yanked my hand away and stumbled into the aisle. The boy's hand fell limply to his side like a doll's arm. I backed away, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I looked around wildly. All the passengers had turned their heads. Every single one was looking at me. Their eyes were empty, hollow, dark, and they were all smiling. The bus drove on into the darkness, carrying its cargo of the dead and me, the only living person on board. And somewhere far behind us, the terminal at Tulancingo faded into fog, and memory, its neon sign, flickering one last time before going dark forever. When you realize you're not alone, it's already too late to run. I stood in the aisle, gasping for air, staring at 30 pairs of empty eyes. They didn't blink. They didn't move. They just watched me with those hollow voids where eyes should be, their mouths stretched into smiles that had nothing to do with happiness. My legs trembled. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but where the bus was moving, we were somewhere on a dark highway in the mountains. There was nowhere to go. The boy in seat 42A tilted his head, studying me like a specimen under glass. His smile widened, showing small white teeth. "Don't be afraid," he said in that terrible chorus of voices. "We won't hurt you." I couldn't speak. My throat had closed up completely. The woman across the aisle, the one I'd thought was his mother, slowly turned her head toward me. Her movements were mechanical joints, creaking like an old door. "You're alive," she said, her voice also layered with multiple tones. "We can feel it. Your warmth, your breath, your beating heart." I stumbled backward, hitting the seat behind me. The impact jarred my phone from my pocket. It clattered to the floor, the cracked screen flickering once before going dark. Battery dead. My last connection to the world was gone. The man in the black suit at the front of the bus stood up, slowly, unnaturally. His body rose in sections like he was being pulled up by invisible strings. His briefcase fell from his lap, hitting the floor with a heavy thud that echoed through the bus. "Please sit down," he said, his voice a grinding amalgamation of sounds. "We have a long way to go." "No," I managed to whisper. "No, no, no." The two college girls in row 3 turned in their seats, their movements perfectly synchronized. They looked at me with their empty eyes, their heads tilted at the exact same angle. "Why are you scared?" they asked in unison. "We're just passengers, like you." I shook my head violently. "You're not passengers. You're not real. This isn't real." The elderly couple in row 5 stood together, the woman's neck still bent at that impossible angle. They held hands, their fingers intertwined. "We're very real," the old man said. "We died, yes, but we're still here, still riding this bus, still trying to get home." My back hit the rear door of the bus. Cold metal pressed against my spine. I was trapped at the back, surrounded by the dead, with nowhere to run. "Let me out," I said, my voice cracking. "Please, just let me out." The boy climbed down from his seat. His movements were jerky, puppet-like. He walked toward me down the aisle, his white sneakers making no sound on the floor. "You can't leave yet," he said. "The bus is moving. It's not safe." He was right. Through the windows I could see we were traveling fast. The darkness rushed past, broken occasionally by the blur of trees. If I somehow managed to open the door and jump, I'd be killed. The boy stopped a few feet away from me. Up close, I could see more details. The blue tinge to his lips, the way his skin looked waxy and artificial, the complete absence of breath. "My name is Daniel," he said. "I was 7 years old. I was going home with my Aunt Valentina." He pointed to the woman in seat 41A. "We never made it." I pressed myself harder against the door. "What happened to you?" Daniel's smile faded. "The bus crashed 4 years ago, October 13th, 2019, same route, same driver, same destination." My blood turned to ice. 4 years ago? "The driver lost control," Daniel continued, his voice taking on a distant quality. "Rain, fog, a sharp curve. We went off the road, into the lake. The bus filled with water in 3 minutes. I looked at the other passengers. They were all watching me, listening to Daniel's story. "We drowned," he said simply. "All 47 of us. We drowned in our seats trying to get out, trying to reach the surface. But the bus sank too fast. The doors wouldn't open. The windows wouldn't break." Tears streamed down my face. "I'm so sorry." Daniel looked down at his hands. "We've been riding this bus ever since. Every night we travel from Tulancingo to Poza Rica, but we never arrive. We just keep driving. Forever." The woman who'd been in seat 41. Daniel's Aunt Valentina spoke again. We can't leave the route, we're tied to it. To the moment of our deaths. We ride and ride and ride, hoping that someday we'll finally make it home. I slid down the door until I was sitting on the floor, my knees pulled to my chest. Why can I see you? Why am I here? The driver's voice came from the front of the bus, rough and hollow. You boarded on the anniversary, October 13th, the same date we died. On this night every year, the barrier between our world and yours grows thin. The bus appears, and sometimes the living board it by mistake. What happens to them? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer. Silence, heavy and suffocating. Finally, one of the college girls spoke. Some go mad. They can't accept what they've seen. Some jump from the bus while it's moving. Some simply stop. Their minds break. And some, Daniel added softly, we keep. My heart seized. Keep. We're so lonely, he said, and for the first time his voice sounded genuinely sad. So cold, so tired of being dead. When someone living boards the bus, we can feel their warmth, their life. It reminds us of what we lost. I shook my head frantically. No, you can't keep me. I need to get home. My mother needs me. Valentina crouched down, her movement still unnaturally stiff. We all had mothers, fathers, children, people who needed us, but we never got home. Why should you? Because I'm alive, I shouted. I'm alive and you're dead and this isn't fair. The bus suddenly swerved. I was thrown to the side, hitting my shoulder hard against a seat. Pain exploded through my arm. When I looked up, all the passengers were standing, every single one, crowding the aisle, surrounding me. Their empty eyes stared down at me. Their smiles were gone now. Their faces were blank, emotionless. You're right, the man in the black suit said. It isn't fair. It wasn't fair when we died. It wasn't fair when our families buried empty coffins, because 16 of our bodies were never recovered from the lake. It wasn't fair when the world moved on and forgot about us. The workers in dusty clothes spoke next, their voices overlapping. We had families, jobs, lives, all taken in 3 minutes. The teenager with the backpack, I was going to university. I had a scholarship. I had dreams. The woman in the business suit. I was pregnant, 3 months. No one even knew yet. Each voice layered on top of the last building into a cacophony of grief and rage and despair. Stop! I screamed, covering my ears. Please, just stop! The voices cut off instantly. The silence that followed was worse. Daniel knelt down beside me. We don't want to hurt you, Sarah. We just want you to understand. Understand what? What it's like to be trapped, to be unable to go home, to be forgotten. I looked at him, at his small face, at the innocence that death hadn't quite erased. I won't forget you, I promise, but please let me go. He reached out and took my hand again. His touch was still ice cold, but this time I didn't pull away. We'll let you go, he said quietly, at the next station, but you have to do something for us first. What? Remember us. Tell our families. Tell them we're still here. Tell them we're still trying to get home. I nodded, tears blurring my vision. I will. I promise I will. The bus began to slow. I could feel the change in momentum, the gradual decrease in speed. Daniel stood up and helped me to my feet. My legs were weak, shaking so badly I could barely stand. Through the windows I saw a light, actual light, a station, worn and abandoned looking but real. The bus pulled to a stop. The air brakes hissed. The door opened. Cold air rushed in, carrying the smell of damp earth and rotting leaves. Go, Daniel said, before the bus starts moving again. I didn't need to be told twice. I ran to the door, my feet pounding on the floor, but before I stepped out I turned back. All the passengers were watching me, standing in the aisle, their empty eyes fixed on my face. I won't forget, I said, I promise. Daniel smiled, a real smile this time, sad and small. Thank you. I jumped down from the bus, my feet hitting solid ground. The impact sent shocks through my legs, but I didn't care. I was off the bus. I was free. I turned around to look at the vehicle, and my blood froze. The bus was different. Old. Rusted. Windows shattered. The paint was peeling, revealing corroded metal underneath. The license plate was from 2019, and inside through the broken windows I could see them clearly now, soaking wet. Water dripping from their hair, their clothes, algae clinging to their skin, small fish swimming through the broken windows in and out of the bus. This wasn't a bus. This was a corpse. The corpse of a bus that had been sitting at the bottom of a lake for 4 years, and the passengers. They were exactly what they'd said they were. Drowned, dead, trapped. Daniel pressed his hand against the window, leaving a wet handprint on the glass. He mouthed 2 words, "Don't forget." Then the bus began to fade. Not drive away, fade. Like smoke dispersing in wind. Within seconds it was gone. I was alone in the dark, standing at an abandoned station with nothing but the cold wind and the distant sound of water. I looked around. A wooden sign, rotting and barely readable, said, "Agua Fría Station." Below it, "Closed since 2019. My whole body was shaking. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to process what had just happened. I'd been on a ghost bus. I'd talked to dead people. I'd held hands with a drowned child. And somehow, impossibly, I was alive. I walked around the station looking for any sign of life. A phone, a person, anything. There was nothing. Just an old bench, a rusted vending machine, and a bathroom with the door hanging off its hinges. I checked my phone out of habit, even though I knew it was dead. The screen stayed black. Then I heard it. In the distance. The rumble of an engine. Another bus. This time, when it appeared through the darkness, it looked normal. Modern. The headlights were bright and steady. The paint was fresh. The windows were intact. It pulled up to the station and the door opened. A different driver looked down at me, his face creased with concern. "Miss, what are you doing here? This station has been closed for years." I didn't know what to say. "I got off at the wrong stop. Can you take me to Poza Rica?" He studied me for a long moment, his eyes taking in my disheveled appearance, my tear-stained face. "Where did you come from?" "Tulancingo." His expression changed, became wary. "What bus line?" I showed him my ticket. His face went pale. "You rode with them," he said softly. "You know?" He nodded slowly. "Every year, October 13th. The ghost bus runs. Most people don't see it, but some do. Usually tourists. People who don't know the story." "What story?" "The crash of 2019. 47 people died when the bus went into Agua Fría Lake. It happened about a kilometer from here. They pulled the bus out a week later, but 16 bodies were never recovered. They're still down there trapped in the vehicle." I felt sick. Daniel, he was one of them. "Daniel Morales," the driver said. 7 years old. I knew his family. Good people. They've never been the same. I climbed onto the bus. This one had other passengers, real ones, sleeping peacefully. I could hear them breathing, could see their chests rising and falling. I took a seat near the front, as far from the back as possible. The driver started the engine. "You're lucky you got off. Most people who board that bus, we find them days later wandering the highway in shock. Some are never the same. Some never speak again. Why does it happen? Why do they keep riding? Because they never made it home. They died trying to reach their families. So every year on the anniversary, they try again. They board the same bus, take the same route, hoping this time they'll make it. But they never do. No, they never do." We drove in silence for a while. Outside, the darkness began to give way to the first gray hints of dawn. I looked down at my hands. They were shaking, and there on my palm was a mark. A small handprint, wet, cold. Daniel's handprint. I wiped at it frantically, but it wouldn't come off. The dampness remained soaking into my skin. The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "That'll fade, eventually. But you'll never forget the cold." He was right. We arrived in Poza Rica as the sun was rising. The driver refused my money. "Just do what they asked," he said as I got off. "Tell the families. Tell them their loved ones are still trying to come home." I nodded, too exhausted to speak. I took a taxi to my mother's house. She opened the door in her bathrobe, her arm in a sling from her fall. "Mija, I was so worried you didn't answer my texts." I fell into her arms and sobbed. She held me, stroking my hair, not asking questions, just letting me cry. Later, after I'd showered and changed and eaten something, I sat at her kitchen table with a cup of coffee I couldn't drink. "Mama," I said, "do you remember the bus crash in 2019, the one at Agua Fría?" Her face darkened. "Of course, it was terrible. So many families devastated." "Do you know the families, any of them?" "Some. The Morales family lives not far from here." "Why?" I took a deep breath. "I need to talk to them." That afternoon, I stood outside a small yellow house on Calle Hidalgo. The number on the door was 237. There was a memorial on the front wall. A photograph of Daniel smiling, holding a red backpack. Candles, flowers. A plaque that read, "Daniel Morales, 2012 to 2019, forever in our hearts." I knocked on the door. A man opened it. Mid-40s, graying at the temples, eyes tired and sad. "Yes, Mr. Morales, my name is Sarah Mitchell. I have something to tell you about your son." His face went white. "How do you know Daniel?" "I met him last night on the bus from Tulancingo." He stepped back, one hand gripping the door frame. "That's not possible. My son is dead." "I know, but I met him anyway." A woman appeared behind him, dark hair thin, wearing a cross around her neck. "Who is it, Roberto?" "She says she met Daniel." The woman's eyes filled with tears instantly. "Come in, please." They sat me down in their living room. Photographs of Daniel covered every surface. Daniel at birthday parties, Daniel at school, Daniel playing soccer, Daniel with his family smiling alive. I told them everything. The bus, the passengers, Daniel taking my hand, his cold grip, his message. Roberto Morales buried his face in his hands. His wife, Maria, wept silently. "He's still there," she whispered. "After all this time, he's still trying to come home." "He wanted me to tell you," I said. "He wanted you to know he's not alone. His Aunt Valentina is with him." Maria let out a sob. "Valentina, my sister, she was bringing Daniel back from visiting our mother. They died together." "They're together on the bus," I said. "He said she takes care of him." Roberto looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. Can you help him? Can you bring him home?" "I don't know. I don't know how." Maria stood up and went to a bookshelf. She pulled out a photo album and brought it back, opening it to a specific page. It showed the crash site, the lake, the bus being pulled from the water by cranes. "They recovered 31 bodies," she said. 16 were never found. Daniel was one of them. He's still down there in the bus at the bottom of the lake." "Maybe," Roberto said slowly, "maybe that's why he can't leave, because his body is still trapped." I looked at the photograph, the murky water, the twisted metal. The idea of Daniel's small body still down there after 4 years made me feel sick. "There has to be a way," I said. "There has to be something we can do." Maria gripped my hand. "Will you help us? Please, you're the first person who's seen him and come back. The first person who can tell us he's real." I thought about Daniel's empty eyes, his cold hand, his sad smile. "Yes," I said, "I'll help." We talked for hours. They told me about the crash, about the families of the other victims, about the failed attempts to recover the remaining bodies. The lake was too deep, the currents too dangerous. The bus had settled in a spot that was nearly impossible to reach without specialized equipment that the local authorities couldn't afford. So the dead had stayed where they fell, trapped, forgotten, lost. As the sun set, I left the Morales house with a folder full of information. Names and addresses of the other families, newspaper clippings, police reports. I had promised to help, but I had no idea how. That night I stayed at my mother's house. I lay in my childhood bed staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them, the passengers, their empty eyes, their wet hair, their drowned faces. At 2:34 a.m. I jolted awake. The exact time the bus had picked me up, I heard something. A sound from outside my window. Tap, 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 soft knocking on the glass. My heart hammered. I didn't want to look, didn't want to see what was out there, but I had to. I turned my head slowly toward the window. A small handprint, wet, pressed against the glass from the outside, and in the darkness beyond a figure, small, child-sized, Daniel. He stood in my mother's garden water, dripping from his clothes algae in his hair. He looked up at me with his hollow eyes, and he mouthed 2 words, "Help me." Then he vanished. I grabbed my phone to call someone, anyone, but it was still dead. I'd plugged it in to charge, but when I pressed the power button, nothing happened. I tried the lights. They flickered once, twice, then died. In the darkness, I heard it again. Tap, tap, tap. Multiple windows now, all around the house. I ran to my door and yanked it open. The hallway was dark. My mother's door was closed. I wanted to wake her, but what would I say? That a dead child was knocking on our windows, that ghosts were real, that I'd made a promise to the dead, and now they were following me. The tapping stopped. Silence. I stood in the dark hallway listening, waiting. Then from downstairs I heard the front door creak open. Footsteps, wet, squelching on the tile floor. Someone was in the house. I pressed myself against the wall, barely breathing. The footsteps came closer, slow, deliberate, climbing the stairs. I could hear water dripping, could smell lake water and rot and death. A figure appeared at the top of the stairs, backlit by the faint streetlight coming through a window. Small, child-sized. "Sarah," Daniel's voice echoed. "You promised." "I'm trying," I whispered. "I don't know how to help you. Come back to the lake. Come see where we died. You need to understand." "I can't. I'm scared." "We're all scared. We've been scared for 4 years, trapped in the dark, in the cold, in the water." He took a step closer. Water pooled around his feet. "Please," he said. "We need you. You're the only one who can see us. The only one who believes." Tears streamed down my face. "What do you want me to do?" "Free us. Help our families let us go. We can't leave until they say goodbye, until they tell us it's okay to stop trying to come home." "How do I do that?" "Bring them to the lake, all of them. Let them see. Let them know we're real. Let them say goodbye." Before I could respond, he was gone. Just a puddle of water on the floor, slowly soaking into the carpet. The lights flickered back on. My phone buzzed, suddenly charged. Notifications flooded the screen. Messages from my sisters asking if I'd arrived safely. Missed calls from my mother. Emails about work. Everything normal. Everything real. Except for the wet footprints leading from the stairs to my room, and the cold handprint on my window that refused to dry. Some encounters change you. Some encounters mark you, and some follow you home. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I sat on my bed knees, pulled to my chest, watching the wet footprints slowly evaporate from the carpet. By the time the sun rose, they were gone, but the handprint on the window remained a ghostly outline that caught the morning light. My mother knocked on my door at 7 a.m. "Mija, are you awake? I made breakfast." I couldn't tell her. Couldn't explain why I looked like I hadn't slept, why my hands were shaking as I reached for the coffee she'd made. "You look terrible," she said, pressing her hand to my forehead. "Are you sick?" "Just tired, Mama. The bus ride was long." She studied my face for a moment, her eyes filled with that particular concern only mothers have. "Something happened. I can see it. You can tell me." And I wanted to. God, I wanted to tell her everything. But how do you explain that you've been marked by the dead, that ghosts are real, and they want your help? "I'm fine," I lied. "I just need to take care of something today." After breakfast, I opened the folder Roberto Morales had given me. Inside were 16 names, 16 families who'd lost someone in the crash, 16 bodies never recovered. Daniel Morales, age 7, Valentina Morales, age 35, Carlos Hernandez, age 42, Ana Martinez, age 19, Sofia Martinez, age 21, Miguel Santos, age 70, Rosa Santos, age 68, Juan Reyes, age 28, Isabella Cruz, age 33, 3 months pregnant, the note said, Luis Ortega, age 16, Carmen Flores, age 45, Diego Ramirez, age 52, Patricia Navarro, age 39, Fernando Gomez, age 25. Elena Vargas, age 31. Marco Silva, age 54. 16 people, 16 families still waiting, still grieving, still hoping for closure they'd never received. I spent the morning making calls. It wasn't easy. Most people hung up when I said I'd seen their loved ones on a ghost bus. Some cursed at me. Some cried. But a few listened. Roberto Morales helped. He vouched for me, called the other families, explained that I was real, that I wasn't crazy, that something had happened to me that they needed to hear about. By afternoon, I had agreements from 12 families to meet. 4 refused. Too painful. Too much time had passed. They buried empty coffins and moved on or tried to. I understood. How do you reopen a wound that's taken 4 years to partially heal? We arranged to meet at 3 p.m. at a cafe in downtown Poza Rica. I arrived early, ordered coffee I couldn't drink, and waited. They came one by one. Roberto and Maria Morales. An elderly man who turned out to be Miguel Santos's brother. A young woman who was Sofia Martinez's best friend. A middle-aged couple whose son, Luis Ortega, had been on his way to university. 13 people total. 13 faces marked by loss and lingering grief. I told them everything. Every detail, the bus, the passengers, their loved ones, what they'd said, what they'd looked like, how they'd begged to be remembered. Some people wept, some sat in stunned silence. Some pulled out photographs asking me to confirm details. Did he have a scar on his left hand? Was she wearing her grandmother's necklace? Did he mention his daughter? I answered what I could, and with each confirmation, each small detail I could verify, their faces changed. Hope mixed with horror, relief mixed with renewed pain. They're suffering, Maria Morales said finally. After all this time, they're still suffering. Daniel said they can't leave, I explained. They're trapped trying to get home. They need permission to stop. They need their families to let them go. The room fell silent. How? Asked Teresa Ortega Luis's mother. How do we do that? We go to the lake, where they died, where their bodies still are, and we tell them it's okay, that they can stop trying, that they can rest. Roberto stood up. When? Tonight. It has to be tonight, October 14th. The anniversary has passed, but the connection is still strong. If we wait, it might be another year before we get the chance. One by one, they agreed. At 8 p.m., we gathered at the edge of Agua Fría Lake. 6 cars parked along the dirt road, 13 people standing in the cold wind staring at the dark water. I'd never seen the lake in daylight before. It was beautiful in a haunting way, surrounded by trees reflecting the twilight sky, peaceful, serene. You'd never know it was a graveyard. The local police had erected a small memorial here after the crash. A stone marker with the names of all 47 victims. Flowers now withered lay scattered around it. Candles long since burned out stood in glass holders. We lit new candles, 13 small flames against the gathering darkness. Roberto Morales stepped forward first. He held a photograph of Daniel, the same one from the memorial at his house. Daniel, he said, his voice cracking. Mijo, I know you're here. I know you've been trying to come home. His wife, Maria, joined him. We miss you so much, baby, every day, every hour. But we can't keep you trapped anymore. Tears streamed down both their faces. It's okay to stop trying, Roberto continued. It's okay to rest. You don't have to come home. You don't have to keep riding that bus. We'll be okay, Maria sobbed. We'll survive. We'll remember you. We'll love you forever. But you need to let go. You need to be at peace. I watched my own tears falling freely. Around us, the other families stepped forward. Each with photographs, with flowers, with words of love and release. Teresa Ortega spoke to her son Luis. You would have been 20 now, a man. I'll never stop wondering who you would have become. But wherever you are, whatever comes next, go to it. Don't stay in that cold water. Don't stay in that moment of fear and pain. Sofia Martinez's best friend, Lucia, placed a bouquet of roses at the water's edge. You were supposed to be my maid of honor next year. I bought the dress you would have worn, but I'll walk down that aisle without you and I'll be okay, because you need to be okay first. You need to find peace. One by one they released their dead, with words, with tears, with love that transcended death itself. I stood back watching, feeling like an intruder on something sacred and terrible. The sun had set completely now. The only light came from our candles and the rising moon. That's when the water began to change. At first I thought it was just the wind ripples spreading across the surface. But the night was still. No breeze, no movement. The water was rippling from below. "Do you see that?" I whispered. Roberto nodded, his eyes fixed on the lake. Bubbles began to rise, small at first, then larger, breaking on the surface with soft pops. "Something's coming up," Maria breathed. We all stepped back instinctively. The bubbles increased, the water churned, and then in the center of the lake something broke the surface. Not the bus, not bodies. Light, small points of light like stars rising from the depths. 1, 2, 5, 10, 16 lights total. They hovered just above the water, pulsing gently, illuminating the faces of the families gathered on the shore. "Oh my God," Teresa whispered. "Is that them?" I didn't answer. I couldn't speak. The lights began to move slowly, drifting toward the shore. They came closer, closer, until they were just a few feet away. And in each light, for just a moment, I saw a face. Daniel. Smiling, really smiling this time, with joy instead of sadness. Valentina. Her eyes closed peaceful. Carlos, Luis, Sofia, Ana, all 16 of them. They were beautiful. Not the hollow-eyed corpses from the bus, not the drowned bodies at the bottom of the lake, but whole, complete, free. "Mijo," Roberto whispered, reaching toward Daniel's light. The light bobbed closer like a greeting. Then, one by one, the lights began to rise, up from the water, up into the night sky. We watched in awed silence as they ascended, higher and higher until they merged with the stars and disappeared. For a long moment no one moved. No one spoke. Then Maria Morales collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Not with grief this time, with relief. "He's gone," she said. "He's really gone. I can feel it. He's not suffering any more." Around us the other families embraced, cried, held each other. I stood apart watching the lake. The water was calm now, peaceful. The bubbles had stopped. The churning had ceased. It was over, or so I thought. I stayed after the families left. Alone on the shore, staring at the dark water. My mother had called twice, but I'd sent her to voicemail. I needed time to process what had just happened. The dead were free. I'd kept my promise. Daniel and the others had been released, so why did I still feel cold? Why did the handprint on my palm still refuse to fade? I looked down at my hand. In the moonlight I could see it clearly. Small fingers, wet. As if Daniel had just let go seconds ago. I tried to wipe it away. It wouldn't budge. A sound behind me made me turn. A figure stood at the edge of the trees, watching me. My heart seized. It was Daniel, but not the Daniel I'd seen in the light. Not the peaceful, smiling Daniel who'd ascended into the sky. This was the Daniel from the bus, wet, dripping, eyes hollow. "No," I whispered. "You're supposed to be gone." "You're free." He walked toward me, his feet squelching in the mud. "I am free. We all are." "Then why are you here?" He stopped a few feet away. "To say thank you, and to warn you." "Warn me about what?" Daniel looked at the lake, then back at me. "You opened the door, Sarah, between your world and ours. You can see us now, you can hear us. And that door, it doesn't close." Ice flooded my veins. "What do you mean? We're not the only dead who need help. There are others, thousands of others, stuck between worlds, trapped in moments of death, unable to move on." "I don't understand." "You freed us. Word spreads even among the dead. They know about you now. They know you can see them. They know you can help." "No," I said, backing away. "No, I can't. I'm not some ghost whisperer. I'm just a graphic designer from Austin. I got on the wrong bus, that's all." Daniel's expression remained neutral. "You think it was chance? You think it was random that you of all people boarded our bus? Yes, I was late. My sisters dropped me off. I needed to get to my mother. And yet, Daniel said, you were the only living person to board our bus in 4 years, the only one who could see us clearly, the only one who wasn't driven mad, the only one who helped us. I shook my head. That doesn't mean anything. It means everything. You have a gift, Sarah, or a curse, depending on how you look at it. You're connected to the dead now, and they will find you. As if to punctuate his words, I heard it. Whispers, dozens of them, hundreds, coming from the trees, from the water, from the darkness all around. Help me. I'm lost. I can't find my way. Please. I'm so cold. I'm scared. Help us. I pressed my hands over my ears, but the voices didn't stop. They were inside my head now. A chorus of the dead all crying out for help. Make it stop, I screamed. Please make it stop. Daniel raised his hand and the voices fell silent. I can't make them go away, he said, but I can teach you to control it, to decide when you listen and when you don't, to protect yourself. I don't want this. I don't want to see dead people. I don't want to help ghosts. Neither did we want to die. Neither did we want to be trapped. But it happened anyway, and now you have to decide what kind of person you want to be. What do you mean? Will you ignore them? Pretend you don't see them? Let them suffer in silence? Or will you help, like you helped us? I looked at him, this dead child who'd held my hand on a ghost bus, who'd shown me a world I never wanted to see. If I say no, if I refuse, they'll keep coming. They'll haunt you, your home, your work, your dreams. The dead are persistent, Sarah. We have nothing but time. And if I say yes, you'll never have a normal life again. You'll see things others can't. You'll know things others don't. You'll carry the weight of the dead on your shoulders. I stared at the lake, at the place where 16 bodies still lay trapped in a rusted bus at the bottom. What happened to your body? I asked suddenly. If you're free, if you've moved on, what happened to you down there? Daniel looked at the water. We're still there. Our bodies. But we're not in them anymore. We're elsewhere, somewhere better, somewhere warm. Will they ever recover you? Maybe, someday. It doesn't matter now. We're not trapped in that metal cage anymore. We're not drowning over and over. We're free. But your families want to bury you properly. And they will when the time comes. But that's not your concern anymore. You've done your part for us. He began to fade, slowly, becoming translucent. Wait, I said. If I do this, if I help the others, will it ever end? Daniel's voice echoed as he disappeared. No, the dead are everywhere. They'll always need you. But you'll learn to live with it. You'll find others like you. And maybe eventually you'll find peace with your gift. It's not a gift, I shouted at the empty air. It's a curse. But he was gone. I stood alone on the shore, the cold wind picking up the moon reflecting off the dark water. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I opened it. A photograph, taken from a distance, of me standing on the shore. And behind me in the image were dozens of shadows, human-shaped, watching me. Below the photo a message, they're waiting. I looked around. In the physical world I was alone, but in that photograph I was surrounded. My phone buzzed again, another message, an address. 524 Calle Juarez, Veracruz. Then, a girl named Sophia, aged 9, drowned in a swimming pool 3 months ago. Her mother thinks she committed suicide. She didn't. Help her. I stared at the message. I could delete it, block the number, pretend I never saw it. But I'd see Sophia anyway, wouldn't I? She'd find me. They all would. Daniel was right. I'd opened a door. And doors once opened are very hard to close. I looked at the lake one more time. Then I turned and walked back to my car. As I drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. Daniel stood on the shore waving goodbye. And behind him in the water, I saw the bus, rising to the surface, rusted, broken, empty. Then it sank back down, disappearing into the depths. Gone. Finally gone. But my work, I realized, had just begun. I drove back to my mother's house, parked in the driveway, sat in the car for 10 minutes trying to gather the courage to go inside. When I finally entered, my mother was waiting in the kitchen. "Where were you?" she asked. "I was worried. I had to help someone." She looked at me for a long moment. "You look different. Changed." "I am changed, Mama." She came over and hugged me. "Whatever happened to you on that bus, whatever you saw, I'm here." "You can tell me when you're ready." I hugged her back, breathing in the familiar scent of her perfume, feeling the warmth of her living body. "Not yet," I whispered. "I'm not ready yet." That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. My phone was on the nightstand, fully charged, waiting. At 2:34 a.m. I heard it. Tap, tap, tap on the window. I didn't want to look, didn't want to see who it was, but I forced myself to turn my head. A girl, maybe 9 years old, wet hair, wet clothes, eyes wide and frightened. Sophia. She pressed her hand against the glass, leaving a wet handprint next to Daniel's. "Please," she mouthed. "Help me." I closed my eyes, took a deep breath. Then I got up, walked to the window and opened it. Cold air rushed in, the smell of chlorine and death. "I'll help you," I said. "But not tonight. I need to rest first. Can you wait until morning?" Sophia nodded. Then she faded away. I closed the window, went back to bed, and somehow miraculously fell asleep, and I dreamed. I dreamed of a swimming pool, blue tiles, clear water, a little girl playing, laughing. Then I dreamed of hands, adult hands, pushing her down, holding her under. I dreamed of her struggling, fighting, drowning. And I dreamed of her mother coming home, finding her daughter floating face down in the pool, thinking she'd slipped and fallen, never knowing the truth, never knowing it was murder. When I woke up at dawn, I knew what I had to do. I had to tell Sophia's mother the truth. I had to find the killer. I had to give this dead child justice. Because that's what I do now. I'm a ferryman for the dead, a voice for those who can no longer speak, a bridge between the living and the dead. I didn't ask for this. I didn't want this. But Daniel was right about one thing. I had to decide what kind of person I wanted to be. And I decided to be the kind who helps. Even if it costs me everything, even if I never sleep peacefully again, even if I'm haunted for the rest of my life, because someone has to do it. Someone has to listen to the dead. And apparently that someone is me. The day after the lake ceremony, I sat in a cafe in Veracruz across from a woman named Patricia Delgado, Sophia's mother. She looked exhausted, worn down by grief and guilt. I didn't tell her I'd seen Sophia's ghost. I didn't mention the bus or Daniel or any of it. I just said I was a private investigator looking into accidental drownings. I said I'd heard about her daughter's case and wanted to ask a few questions. She let me in, desperate for any explanation other than suicide, desperate to believe her daughter's death wasn't her fault. I asked about the day Sophia died, who was home, who had access to the pool, who might have had a reason to hurt her. And slowly, carefully, the truth emerged. Patricia's boyfriend, a man named Rodrigo. He'd been there that day. He'd been watching Sophia while Patricia went to the store. He said he just went inside for a few minutes. Patricia told me, tears streaming down her face. He said when he came back out, she was already in the water. He tried to save her. He called 911. He did CPR. Did the police investigate him? They questioned him. But there was no evidence, no signs of struggle, no bruises. The medical examiner said it was consistent with accidental drowning. Where is Rodrigo now? We broke up a month after Sophia died. I couldn't look at him anymore, couldn't stop blaming him for not watching her closely enough. I made a note of his address, his workplace, his routine. Then I did something I'd never done before. I went to the police. Not with ghost stories, but with a hunch, a suggestion that they take another look at the case, that they check Rodrigo's finances, his internet history, his past. It took 3 weeks, but they found it. Life insurance policy, taken out on Sophia 6 months before her death, Rodrigo as beneficiary. Patricia had signed it without reading it carefully, trusting him. Search history on his laptop. How long can a child hold their breath underwater? Drowning statistics, children. How to fake CPR. And finally, a witness. A neighbor who'd seen Rodrigo in the backyard with Sofia, had seen him push her into the deep end, had seen him hold her down when she tried to surface. The neighbor had been too afraid to come forward, but when the police came asking questions when they explained they had other evidence, the neighbor broke. Rodrigo was arrested, charged with murder. Patricia called me sobbing. You were right. He killed her. He killed my baby for money. I met with her one more time. At her house, late at night, Sofia was there, standing in the corner of the living room, wet, silent, watching her mother. Patricia, I said carefully, I need to tell you something. And you're going to think I'm crazy. Tell me. Sofia's spirit is trapped. She can't move on because she thinks you blame yourself. She thinks you're suffering because of her. Patricia stared at me. How do you know that? Because she told me. I expected disbelief, anger, but Patricia just nodded slowly. I can feel her, she whispered. Sometimes at night I feel her in the house. I hear her. I think I'm going crazy. You're not crazy. She's really here, and she needs you to let her go. Patricia looked around the room, her eyes searching. Where is she? In the corner, by the bookshelf. Patricia turned, looked directly at Sofia. For a moment I thought she couldn't see her, but then Patricia gasped. Oh my God, Sofia, baby! She could see her daughter. Sofia stepped forward, slowly, uncertain. Patricia fell to her knees. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I let him hurt you. I'm so sorry I didn't protect you. Sofia shook her head. When she spoke, her voice was small and sad. It's not your fault, Mama. I don't blame you. I should have known. I should have seen what he was. You couldn't have known. Bad people hide who they are. Mother and daughter faced each other, one living, one dead, both crying. I love you so much, Patricia sobbed. I miss you every second of every day. I love you too, Mama, but I need to go now. I need to rest. Will I ever see you again? Sofia smiled. Maybe, someday, when it's your time, but not for a long, long time. You need to live, Mama. Live for both of us. Patricia reached out, trying to touch her daughter. Her hand passed through Sofia's form. Goodbye, baby. Goodbye, Mama. Sofia began to fade, slowly, peacefully. Thank you for finding the truth, she said to me. Thank you for helping my mom. Then she was gone. Patricia collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. I sat with her, not speaking, just being present while she grieved. Eventually, she looked up at me. Who are you really? Someone who can see the dead. Someone who helps them find peace. There are more like Sofia. Thousands, maybe millions, all over the world, trapped between life and death. And you help them all. I try. Patricia stood up, wiped her face. Thank you. I don't know how you do what you do, but thank you. After I left her house, I stood on the sidewalk looking up at the stars. 2 down, Daniel and Sofia, both at peace. How many more to go? My phone buzzed. Another unknown number, another address, another name. This time a boy, age 12, died in a car accident. Parents think it was their fault for letting him ride with an inexperienced driver. It wasn't. The other driver had been drunk. I looked at the message for a long time. Then I replied, I'll help. Because that's what I do now. I'm Sarah Mitchell. I'm 28 years old. I'm a graphic designer from Austin, Texas. And I speak for the dead. Some doors once opened can never be closed, and I had opened the door between the living and the dead. 6 months had passed since that night at Agua Fría Lake. 6 months since I'd watched 16 lights rise from the water and disappear into the sky. 6 months since Daniel and the others found peace. I was back in Austin now, trying to rebuild what was left of my normal life. Trying, failing, mostly failing. My apartment looked the same. Same furniture, same walls, same view of downtown from my window. But everything felt different, heavier, like the air itself carried the weight of unseen things, because I saw them now, everywhere, not constantly. Not like those first weeks when every shadow seemed to hide a ghost, when every cold breeze felt like dead fingers brushing my skin. but often enough that I could never truly relax. A woman in a hospital gown standing at the bus stop, gone when I blinked. A man in a business suit sitting in the coffee shop, staring at nothing. Translucent, silent. A child on a bicycle riding in circles in the park. The same circle over and over, never stopping. The dead were everywhere, and only I could see them. I'd helped 3 people since Daniel. 3 lost souls who'd found me, begged for help, and received it. There was Marcus, 42, killed in a hit and run. I tracked down the driver through security footage I convinced the store owner to let me review. The driver confessed. Marcus's wife got closure. There was Lily, 6 years old, who drowned while her mother was distracted. I helped her mother understand it was an accident, not negligence. Lily whispered thank you and faded into light. There was Raymond, 78, who died alone in a nursing home. I visited his grave, placed flowers, spoke his name aloud. He appeared one last time, smiled, and was gone. 3 ghosts. 3 months of work, 3 pieces of my sanity traded for their peace. I was exhausted. My freelance work suffered. My friends stopped calling after I canceled plans too many times. My mother worried every time we talked, hearing the fatigue in my voice that no amount of sleep could cure. Because I wasn't sleeping, not really. Every night I lay awake waiting for the knock on the window, the whisper in the darkness, the cold presence that signaled another ghost had found me. They always found me. It was a Thursday evening in April when everything came to a head. I was working on a logo design, staring at my computer screen without really seeing it when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Sarah Mitchell, a woman's voice, older, tired. Yes. My name is Rebecca Lawson. A friend gave me your number, said you might be able to help with unusual situations. I closed my laptop. What kind of situations? The kind where you see things other people don't, where the dead won't leave you alone. Where you're drowning in ghosts and you don't know how to stop. My breath caught. How did you know? Because I'm like you. I've been like you for 12 years, and I'm calling because someone I know saw you at Marcus Chen's funeral, saw the way you looked at the empty space beside his widow, saw you nod at nothing. You were talking to him, weren't you? I didn't answer, couldn't answer. There's a support group, Rebecca continued. People like us. We call ourselves witnesses, people who've touched death and come back changed. We meet Thursday nights. You should come, before you break. I'm not breaking. Yes, you are. I can hear it in your voice. You sound exactly like I did in my first year, like Thomas did, like Keisha did. We all thought we could handle it alone. We were all wrong. She gave me an address, a time, 8 p.m. tonight. Think about it, she said, but don't think too long. Time isn't kind to witnesses who try to carry this burden alone. She hung up before I could respond. I sat staring at my phone for 10 minutes, then I grabbed my keys and left. The address was a small community center in East Austin. I arrived at 7:55, sat in my car for 4 minutes, almost drove away twice. But I went in. 7 people sat in a circle of folding chairs. They all looked up when I entered, and I saw it immediately. That look, that awareness, the weight in their eyes that came from seeing what others couldn't. You must be Sarah, a woman in her 40s said, standing. I'm Rebecca. Welcome. The meeting lasted 2 hours. Each person shared their story. How they became a witness, what they saw, how they coped. Thomas, 53, died in a car accident, was revived after 7 minutes. Now he saw the dead everywhere constantly, an endless parade of lost souls. Keisha, 24, overdosed at a party, was brought back by paramedics. Her family thought she was schizophrenic. She let them believe it rather than tell the truth. David, 38, nearly drowned as a teenager. Spent 3 minutes clinically dead. Spent the next 20 years learning to live with his gift. One by one they shared. And I realized I wasn't alone, wasn't crazy, wasn't broken. Just changed. Permanently, irrevocably changed. When it was my turn, I told them about the bus, about Daniel, about the lake, about the 3 ghosts I'd helped since. 3 in 6 months, Rebecca said when I finished. That's unsustainable. You'll burn out within a year at that rate. What else can I do? They need help. I'm the only one who can see them. You're not the only one, Thomas said quietly. We're all here. We all see them. And we've all learned the same hard lesson: you cannot save everyone. But they're suffering. So are you, Keisha said. And if you destroy yourself trying to save them all, you won't be able to save anyone. Rebecca pulled out a notebook, handed it to me. These are our rules, strategies we've developed over the years for surviving this. Read them, follow them, or don't and burn out like everyone who refuses to set boundaries. I opened the notebook. Page after page of handwritten guidelines. Set limits. 1 ghost per month, maximum 2. Protect your space. Salt on windowsills, iron at doorways. Create a schedule. Only interact with the dead during specific hours. Find an anchor. Something that reminds you you're alive. Remember, you have the power. You can say no. Does this actually work? I asked. We're all still here, David said. Still functional. Still helping, but sustainably. It's not perfect, but it's survival. I took the notebook home, read it cover to cover 3 times. Then I did something I'd never done before. I implemented the rules. I bought salt, drew lines across every threshold. I set a schedule. Ghosts could reach me between 2 and 6 p.m., no other time. I found my anchor, a photograph of my family, all of us together, alive and happy. And when a ghost appeared outside my window at 11 p.m. that night, I didn't get up, didn't respond. Just looked at the photograph and reminded myself I was alive. The ghost knocked for an hour, then left. I'd survived the night by saying no. Over the next 3 months, I continued attending the group, continued implementing the rules, continued helping ghosts, but on my terms, within my limits. It wasn't easy. The guilt was crushing every time I turned a ghost away, told them to come back during business hours, said I'd already helped someone that month. But I survived. I functioned. I even started sleeping again. 1 year after the bus, I stood at Agua Fría Lake on October 13, 2024. The families had erected a permanent memorial, 47 names carved in stone, fresh flowers, candles burning in the twilight. I lit a candle for Daniel, for Valentina. For all 16 who had been trapped and were now free. I'm still here, I said to the water. Still helping. It's hard, but I'm doing it. Thank you for choosing me, even though I didn't want to be chosen. The water rippled, a warm breeze despite the October chill, and I felt it. Just for a moment, a small, cold hand in mine, then gone. I smiled through tears. Rest well, Daniel. My phone buzzed as I walked back to my car. Unknown number. An address in San Antonio. A message. Please help. My name is Miguel. I'm 15. I died protecting my classmates. My father thinks I was a coward. He needs to know the truth. 1 year ago, I would have immediately said yes, would have driven to San Antonio that night. Now I checked my calendar. I had already helped someone this month. I replied, I see you, Miguel. I'll help you. But not until November. Can you wait? The response came quickly. Yes, thank you for answering. Thank you for seeing me. I put my phone away. Got in my car, drove toward Austin as the sun set behind me. 1 year ago, I was a normal person who boarded the wrong bus. Now I was something else. A witness, a bridge between worlds, a voice for the voiceless dead. I didn't choose this, but I learned to live with it, learned to help without destroying myself, learned to set boundaries, learned that surviving this burden was its own form of heroism. The dead would always find me, always need me, always call out in the darkness, but I wouldn't let them consume me because I was alive. And being alive meant protecting that life even while helping those who'd lost theirs. It was enough. It had to be enough. As I drove into Austin, I glanced in the rearview mirror one last time. The lake was a dark smudge in the distance, already fading into night, and standing on its shore, barely visible, was a small figure. Waving goodbye. I waved back. Then I turned my eyes forward toward the city lights, toward home, toward whatever came next. The dead were behind me now. The living lay ahead, and I chose to keep moving forward, always forward, into the light.